All right, and we're live here with some really good friends to talk about The Batman. You may have heard of it. It's a little film that just came out last week. It's been in the theaters now for, it seems like 2 weekends, but it's only been 1 weekend.
Yeah.
And all of us have seen it. I have seen it twice. I have solidified thoughts on it now, and I'm really excited to share them with you. But before I do, let me introduce my guests for today. So starting with first appearance on the show, which would seem criminal considering how long we're going, but there haven't been that many shows. So Adam is joining us today. Adam is my co-host on Back to the Batcave, a little series we do for his podcast network. Welcome to the show, Adam.
It's great to be here. I'm glad that I don't have to do hosting this week. It's good.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then we have two returning guests. One, Mr. Eric Holzmann of Batman on Film, straight out of Gotham at the podcast, amongst other things. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much. And very quickly, happy birthday to you, sir.
Happy birthday.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yeah, I'm 35 years old.
I hate you, but continue with this.
35 years old.
You're the baby of the group.
Yeah.
I was living at home up until 2 years ago, so I pretty much almost was living in a van down by the river. But anyway, I digress. And I'm excited to welcome back the very first guest on Super Secret HQ, back when it was known as another show, but first time in the rebranded show, Mr. Justin Kowlaski. Justin, welcome to the show.
There's my Batman drink.
Yeah. Well, we have all seen The Batman, like I've said, and I just want to start with some spoiler-free impressions of The Batman, what we thought of it. So why don't we start with Justin?
My spoiler-free thoughts. I'm like, okay, I have to say it because I'm like, don't spoil. Man, I mean, if you've ever followed me on Twitter or aware of my thoughts, I was pretty on the fence and kind of like a cocked eyebrow on the Batman based on nothing but like I just wasn't loving the aesthetics that I saw. Didn't love like the suit and the car. Definitely know Matt Reeves is a capable filmmaker and stuff, but I just felt like a lot of my friends, mutuals, were just all in on it, where I was like, I don't know why I need to be all in yet, because I'm still bought in on the look of and feel of like I really like Affleck. So there was a little bit of reality check of like, oh man, well, this is the final like goodbye, right? But after watching the film, honestly, I really enjoyed it. I feel like it's it's one of the best Batman films made, right? Like when it comes to the things that we love as of the character of Batman and how he was represented and the way he interacted with his characters in the world. I don't know. I can nitpick the crap out of something, and we'll probably talk about those things. I only have like two things that I'm kind of like, everything else, man, was besides like my aesthetic issues. And that's just a thing. Like, that's just, I can't explain it. It's like, I like things to look a certain way. I thought it was an incredible film.
Yeah, no. And I'm loving your, the Batman animated series hat.
Justin. Oh, no, this is classic Batman, bro.
Oh, classic Batman.
That's a Jose Luis Garcia Lopez.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love that hat. It's amazing. All right. Yeah, no, I Justin, we share some thoughts. So I'll get to that in a moment. But first, I want to hear from Adam. Adam, what did you think of the Batman? What were your impressions of it?
I absolutely loved it. The thing that impressed me the most is because I was like, okay, how are you going to do this and make it different and unique from the Batman that we've seen before? Yeah, I get the Batman, but Batman, if you get what I'm saying, that we've seen before. And what really struck me was when Matt Reeves was saying this is a detective movie, like that wasn't lip service. Like he meant it. And I just, the world of Gotham, really, I was absorbed in it. And yeah, the film's 3 hours, yet I wanted to stay in that film, in that world a lot longer. There was just a lot about it. Like there's way more that I loved than I didn't. Like I don't really have that many complaints, but it is like I'm struggling in terms of where do I rank it, just because it was so good. And there's other Batman film that I've loved for years, and they've stayed in one place for so long. It's like, can I have a tie? Do I have to unseat this movie? So it's like, but yeah, it's so good that I know where I want to put it, but there's other stuff that I love there equally that's there. So it's like, where do I put this movie? Because it's so good, and I really have no complaints. But yeah, it was a fantastic experience. And it was my first movie back at the theater in 2 years. So
awesome.
Oh wow,
That's incredible.
That was fun.
Welcome back to the movies, Adam.
Yeah, man.
All right, Eric, tell us what you think of the Batman.
All right, so this really it should be two. I have two answers because the first time I saw it, which was at the fan screening, in IMAX, I left and I was kind of not sure about how I felt about it. It was very. I had some issues with it at the time, and I wasn't sure exactly how I felt. But I've noticed with me, at least with these bigger movies that I'm very, very interested lately, it usually takes a couple viewings for me to actually get how I feel. And I saw it for a second time this past Saturday, and it totally changed my opinion. Or not changed it, but just verified, and I felt better about what I thought the first time. So of course, I enjoyed it. I thought it was excellent. It's kind of the type of movie that I like to watch anyway. I like these detective crime drama type of stories, and that's exactly what this is. I loved that also, and I'm probably going to talk about this later, but how much Batman is in this movie. That was just an incredible thing to see, because normally I feel like it's much more Bruce Wayne than we get in Batman movies. So this time was very cool to have that much Batman. And yeah, I was at first, like I said, I wasn't sure, but then on the second viewing, I was blown away. It was really, really well done. Matt Reeves did an excellent job, which I thought he would. But of course, there are a couple things I have a little bit of issues with, but nothing that's going to make me change my mind about how I felt about it overall. So,
yeah, no, I have similarities with all of you, and it's very interesting to hear your opinions, because I think that Batman is one of our top, if not all of our top character, and of course, with that comes a lot of expectations and things that you sort of want to see and hope to see and but I have to tell you, I was leery of this film. I didn't understand Warner Brothers kind of strategy of this film initially. Like, why are we rebooting Batman again? Like, why can't you just recast, continue what you've sort of set up with Ben Affleck? Just do that and then move forward. But this was like, it is the reverence of Batman the Animated Series combined with the aesthetic of A24. And I've got some aesthetic things too, like you do, Justin, which we can get into later. But basically, that is kind of the way that it feels, is the way that it's shot. Matt Reeves got carte blanche to do what he wanted, and it ended up working out for the best, because clearly he loves this character. He has a lot of reverence for this character. And I think if you're going to sort of compare this film to the previous two Batman directors, I mean, we've had more than that, obviously, but, namely Christopher Nolan and Tim Burton, I think the two directors that have had the most sort of imprint on this film. It's very clear to me that Matt Reeves is the biggest Batman fan of the directors to tackle the project. There's a prominent political commentator, won't say his name, but he's saying this film is ashamed of Batman as a character. And I just was like, what movie was he watching? I mean, it's just a really silly thing to say. This film loves Batman. and understands Batman. And it was really cool to see. There were things that I've been waiting for a long time that Matt Reeves put into this film, including putting Batman in the film for a majority of time over Bruce Wayne, which we can expound on later because it's a little bit of a spoiler. A little bit, not too much, but more of a philosophical thing. But with all of that said, if you have not watched The Batman yet, you've gotten our general impressions of it. I want you to pause this video, YouTube video, pause this podcast, put the phone down, go watch The Batman. If you're listening to this podcast and you haven't seen it, what are you doing? You should have seen it already. But from this point on, we are going to be talking spoilers. So just warning you, everything from this point on is going to be a spoiler zone. So, yep. Turn back now. Okay, spoilers. Here we go. Let's just talk about... Let's start there. Let's start with the fact that the Batman is seen on screen more than Bruce Wayne. What was interesting to me about that is how Matt Reeves puts in the script, in the conversation that that Batman is having with Riddler, they do the whole Bruce Wayne is the mask, Batman is his true identity sort of thing. What do you guys think about that? Was that I mean, obviously it's intentional, but like, what did you think of that choice? What did you think of the Batman being on screen longer? Since Eric has already answered, let's go to Adam. What did you think of that choice, Adam?
I absolutely love that. Not because I don't like seeing Bruce Wayne on screen, but because in every other Batman movie, it's like if you look at the Burton films, with the exception of '89, where we get more of Bruce Wayne Batman, but those movies, that movie is more. Those movies are more focused on the villains, and the big star that's the villain, and Batman's there, and he's, as the movies go on, sometimes it feels like a prop in his own movie, and then Dark Knight trilogy was very much, it's still centered on villains, Joker, Bane, Scarecrow. It did have more Bruce Wayne, but that was more of a Bruce Wayne story that, you saw him in the suit, almost more of necessity because it is a Batman movie, so we have to put him in the suit, but it was really a Bruce Wayne story. This is literally, a friend of mine saw it a couple of days before me, and I said, no spoilers, how was it? And he's like, all I'm going to tell you is this is the most Batman you've ever seen on screen. Mm-hmm. I'm like, all right, I'm good. And then when I watch it, I'm like, holy crap, he was right. There's like 85% Batman in this thing. And so, I love that aspect of it. And it makes sense with where the character is in his evolution at this point. There is no Bruce Wayne persona yet. Right now, he's so laser focused and obsessed with the mission. So to me, that necessitates, he's going to be Batman. Even when he's out of the suit, he's Batman. The church scenes, the way he's locked in on that kid, that's Batman. That's not Bruce Wayne looking at that kid. It's Batman. Mm-hmm. And he wants no point in talking to the mayoral candidate. He's just going along because she cornered him in the spot where he couldn't get away from her. But he's still Batman in that scene. So it's and again, for me, it made sense because of where the point in his career where he's at.
Totally. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I probably like Batman '89 a little bit more than this film because it's more kind of like the Batman elements in that film are more kind of like my sort of preference for the way Batman should be portrayed on screen. That being said, this is one thing that I really loved about the film. And I hope that in DCEU appearances, they really take to heart that, we see a lot of Michael Keaton. I know that, he's going to kind of be the guy in the chair in the DCEU moving forward. But I do hope we get to see a good amount of him as Batman. Justin, what did you think of that choice?
Yeah, I agree. It was cool to see just a whole ton of Batman. It was really obvious. Is like, there's a lot of every scene had Batman in it, and which makes sense because the film is called The Batman, you know, not Batman and Friends and whatever. It was, I feel like if you took every Batman appearance from every Batman film and like laid it out, like, you know, like how much he appeared, like from Keaton all the way up to Affleck, Pattinson's probably played Batman the longest.
Yes, absolutely.
Someone's probably working on that video right now.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was great, man. It really was. We're all huge Batman fans, so it's really fun to see your character like in suit, in costume, doing the things that you want him to do. You know, that's one of those things when you watch like those Marvel Netflix shows. Like, I love Daredevil, but like, man, I wish he was in the suit more. Why did I have to wait 9 episodes to get him in his like classic like outfit? You know, like the outfit means something. The character in his costume means something. Like, no one's buying a Bruce Wayne action figure. We want Batman, right? That's what looks cool. That's what we want to see. The silhouette, the cape, the ears. So yeah, man, I absolutely loved all the Batman like content we got, and it was. I would go and say like 96% of all the Batman stuff in the suit was rad.
Yeah.
Like, even if I don't love the suit, like what was going on was classic core Batman.
Eric, do you have anything to add to this? I know you've already talked about this a little bit, but anything else you want to say about the Batman being in the Batman more than any other character?
No, I mean, these guys kind of summed it up pretty well. But I mean, again, the movie, like I said, all the previous iterations of Batman have been kind of a dichotomy. You know, you get both guys, or you get Bruce and Batman, or you get more Bruce than Batman. I just felt like this was the one time, like almost every scene you see Batman in, and even if he is Bruce, he's Batman soon. Like there's a couple of scenes where you see him as Bruce, and then a few minutes later he comes out, he's Batman again. So, which was refreshing because like I was 13 when 89 came out, so I've literally seen all of these movies in the theater from the first one that was made, and that's one thing that always stood out. Like, I remember people always saying with 89, it should have been called the Joker because Nicholson's in it more than Keaton, and you had all these things, and they were right. Like, if you watch those movies, the villains kind of take center stage.
Yeah.
But not in this film. It really is the Batman, and it is his movie for the very first time where Pattinson's in almost every scene.
Yeah.
There's very few scenes where he's not in them. So it's just, it was just a really well done and a good night, really nice change of pace to see that.
Yeah, no, it's terrific. It's a really great choice, and the way that he portrayed the Riddler kind of lent itself to that, because the Riddler's kind of in the shadows doing things and all of that sort of thing, which I really enjoyed. So let's transition and talk a little bit about the villains in the film. Just because he focuses more on the Batman doesn't mean that he didn't put a lot of care into the villains. I feel like the villains are very well portrayed in this film, probably the best portrayed that they've ever been before. Yes, the Riddler does not look like the comic book Riddler at all. He's not wearing a bowler cap and question marks all over his a jumpsuit. But I would argue that he is the most accurate depiction of the Riddler that we've seen from the comics. The way that he interacts and the changes made, I think, help sort of, blend in with the aesthetic that Matt Reeves was going for. So I probably personally would have loved to have seen something a little bit in between but overall, I think that the Riddler's well done.
I think pink flat top.
No pink flat top. Yeah. Yes, the infamous pink flat top for that Jim Carrey had in Batman Forever. That was really cool. I felt like Penguin. Shout out to Pete on the in the comments tonight. The Penguin was very well portrayed. I liked Colin Farrell's Oswald. It was funny when they announced that they were going to do a spinoff show featuring Penguin. I was like, why? And then I watched the movie and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm in. I'm in. This is going to be really good. You know, I always imagine the Penguin being British and being a bit more refined and not being such like a mobster, you know? But overall, I thought that it was a really, really cool portrayal. And then, well, we won't bring her up yet 'cause she's not a villain at all in this movie. But what did you guys think of the villains? Anybody jump in here?
Okay, I'll go.
Go, Eric. Go, Eric. Go.
All right, so I thought that I said on the show we did with the Vigilantes before, on the Vigilante show, that I was looking most forward to seeing Paul Dano's version of the Riddler, and obviously I knew what he looked like from beforehand. And Pete's in here too. He actually made a costume and was the Riddler for Halloween, the new Riddler for Halloween last year. So shout out to Pete for that. But yeah, when I first saw it the first time, I was kind of iffy on his performance. And again, that goes in line with how I felt seeing the film, because in my mind I was trying to process everything that was going on watching the movie and not just focusing on the specific things I probably should have been watching. So when I got to watch it again on Saturday, man, like you said, not traditional Riddler, not stuff we're used to, but he was fantastic, man. Like he eats up the screen when he's on screen, and even when he's in the background, his presence is there and it's menacing. And then when you finally do get at the end, when they have the conversation at Arkham, and he's just really like losing it, and he's kind of revealing the plan, and you see just how broken down and just how, I don't want to say pathetic, it's not the right term, but he's just a really, really broken down guy at that point. And so like, that's where you got to see the traditional, his whole goal was just beating Batman, right? Like he just wants to, do that whole, and then you saw that, and man, that he was just fantastic. And yes, Colin Farrell, man, I still to this day can't believe that's him. The makeup is so well done, and it doesn't, like, if you don't focus on the eyes, you can't tell that it's Colin Farrell. And he was fantastic. Like he was the comic relief in the film for the most part, because this film is very, very dark. And when he's on the screen, you get the funny jokes and you get the little bit of but they fit, like they weren't, it wasn't over the top. It didn't kind of take away from the tone of the movie. They fit within what they were going for. And man, you're right, Josh. I want this show now so bad. This Oswald show so bad. I can't even explain it. Like it's just so awesome. And yeah, in Batman movies, the villains are just as big a part of the movie, and they nailed it in this one again. They were both excellent. And we'll talk about Selena later, but they were both excellent. So
yeah, I was gonna say a couple things about the Penguin. I've always wanted that Joe Pesci Penguin, and I feel like we got it. Like that's kind of like where I like.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Larger in stature, Joe Pesci, and because I like that gangster. But again, I think if I go to preference, I kind of want the wannabe aristocrat like Penguin. And who knows, like a sequel, he can be like classing up and like, oh, I run a respectable business, whatever. Who knows what's going to happen next. But I saw a lot of people criticizing this movie and saying he doesn't have an umbrella. And Homeboy had one 3 times, because I saw it the second time and I made sure to count. I was like, I know he had one outside the funeral and he had one outside on the patio, like when they're outside. So I know he had an umbrella, and they all need to shut up. Riddler, Eric, you said something that I feel like it continues to confirm my take on the Riddler. I thought the Riddler was incredible. Like he's one of my favorite Batman villains, because I feel like he's so difficult to kind of write, and so there's not a whole ton of great Riddler stories. To my knowledge, as a Batman reader for a long time, I'm like, man, maybe count him on my hand, right? And so for the movie to really do him justice, I like that. I didn't have to go running around the city for those stupid Riddler tokens like in the video games, right?
Tell me really quick, just before you continue, when they first go into the orphanage and you see that side, did you not think of the Arkham games with the writing?
Oh no, for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's the one thing though. I wish if they were going to do any type of lean into those games, I really like the Riddler's look in those games because I
Yeah.
feel like it's not so comic booky. I'm in Frank Gorshin tights, and it's a guy who wants to mentally challenge the Batman, right? But I get why Reeves did what he did. I just wish that when we did see the Riddler, he wasn't always in his mask because Dano is so expressive. Like he's really good with his eyes. Like him and Pattinson, they should win an Oscar for eyeball
Yeah,
acting, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
but there was something I was like, oh man, I wish we got a little more of him not in the mask. And I get they wanted to reveal and all that stuff, but I'm hoping the next time we see Riddler, he's not in the mask anymore. He doesn't need it. It's not necessary for, what he's doing. But I get now, like with the end of the film, like it makes sense why he had this full body covered,
He could
outfit.
he could literally throw on a beanie and like a green beanie, and it wouldn't be like corny or anything like that, and it would make him look more like the comic book Riddler.
Yeah.
You know?
And so anyways, I thought he was good. He was great. Just I do have a little bit of like, the mask was, I feel like it was a little on the nose.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I thought I shared with you guys, and now it's been thoroughly debunked. I thought that I was convinced, debunked after I saw the movie a second time because I paid more attention. But I was totally convinced that the Riddler was an amalgamation of Riddler and Hush in the movie, because it's sort of like, from a narrative standpoint, would make sense that Tommy Elliott would want to get revenge on Bruce Wayne for killing his father, which it sounds like, or Thomas Wayne for killing his father, which it sounds like, the journalist that Falcone murdered was named Elliot. So, and they emphasized Hush really like clearly there.
Yeah, it was on the screen. Is this?
Yes.
I'm like, wait a minute, where are they going with this?
And I thought to myself when I was watching the movie, this is a really clever way to reveal a whodunit, because it's sort of combining two characters into one. Now Matt Reeves has said he would love to do Hush in the future, so obviously he's not Hush. And he's in the photo, and Thomas and Martha are in the photo, and it's a bunch of orphans. So obviously he wasn't orphaned before Thomas Wayne died. But that's what I had initially thought. Adam, I do want to hear your thoughts, but I just want to say as well, I loved how once he was out of the mask, how hammy he was in the camera when he's in the jail cell, and he's like, and the explosions are going off, and he's going, boom, like the thing. Like I love that. It's like, to me, and I really liked Ewan McGregor's performance as Black Mask as well. There's room, like obviously the Batman Forever and Batman and Robin was a little bit too much camp, like a little bit too much campiness. But there is room for a little bit of campiness with Batman villains. Like, I think that they can be a little bit sort of colorful in that way, And I really like this like dark aesthetic with that sort of a thing. Like it gave me a little bit of a sense of like, oh no, this is like a actual crazy person. And that was really cool. Adam, I'm sorry for stealing your thunder.
Yeah, so for me, the first thing I'll say about Paul Dano as the Riddler is his intro was really unsettling. Like, that was creepy as hell. With the breathing and the whole night, because at first I'm like, oh, that's Batman, right? And then I'm like, oh, okay, it's not Batman. So that was creepy. And then the other thing that I really liked was that he was always one step ahead of Batman and Gordon, which I think if you're going to do the Riddler, it's integral. Like, he can't just be there spouting out riddles for the sake of, hey, I got a question mark on my outfit, so it's, I need to, like, I like the fact that he's one of Batman's most intelligent villains, and this film emphasized that, expertly. And so the funny thing was, in that one scene in the diner when he doesn't have the mask on, I thought he was just as creepy.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, is he gonna like turn himself in? Is he going to try something? Like what's he after here? And he just,
7.
no offense to Paul Dano, but you look creepy, man.
Yeah.
He does. He plays creepy so well. But
Yeah, he's an expert at it. I hope it doesn't extend into his personal life, but anyway, like Army Hammer. But so I really enjoyed him, and in terms of like Batman villainry and performance, I'll say Heath Ledger is tops, because I don't know, maybe somebody will top him one day, but right now it hasn't been done. I don't count Joker because Batman's not there, so I don't count it. I'll say Ledger. I'll say Nicholson, and then probably Pfeiffer, and then Dano's right there. So he's top 4 in terms of performances as a Batman villain for me. In terms of Colin Farrell as Penguin, I was purposely looking for, just before I talk about how he played the role, I was purposely looking for if I can hear a subtle slip and hear Colin Farrell in there, because I can't see him in there. But I'm like, well, will he slip? And there was no slip. Like, if I wasn't so tuned into who's in this movie, who provided the catering. Okay, I don't know who provided the catering, but if I wasn't so tuned in, I wouldn't know that's Colin Farrell if I didn't see his name on screen.
So true.
Like, my wife had no idea. She was like, "Who was that?"
Like my mom. I guess I've said this on my podcast. Me and my mom have a tradition, because the first movie she took me to when I was 6 was Batman '89. So whenever one of these things comes out, we go and watch it together. It's a thing. And she was like, "Who's the Penguin?" And I'm whispering, "Colin Farrell." And she's like, "Who's that?" And so I'm trying to relate to which movie she'll remember him from. And the only thing I could think of in the moment was Bullseye, right? And I'm like, "Bullseye from Daredevil." And I'm trying to whisper this because we're in a theater. And she's like, "No, that's not him." I'm like, "I'll talk to you about this later." But yeah, so she had no clue who it was. Because I'm trying to follow along with the riddles, and she's asking me questions. Like, I need to focus. I need to figure out what's going on here. But yeah, so I couldn't recognize him. And in terms of that, working his way up through the mob and wanting to be the kingpin, and he sort of, you could see him angling for that throughout the film. And then one of the things I really liked of his was the scene with him and Batman in his club, when Batman's going with him for information, and he's just like toying with Batman and like giving him this lip service, this attitude, because he's just like, in this situation, you need me. I can just toy with you, right?
Yeah.
Like, and he's playing that up full to the hilt, So I really liked his performance, and there was humor. Like I've read a couple of reviews that are like, "Oh, this thing is humorless," and I'm like, "Did you not see the interaction between him, Batman, and Gordon?" Because I was laughing at that.
That was incredible. That was so awesome.
But like you guys all were saying, like when they first announced the show, I'm like, well, look, Reeves is in charge. He's a really good, filmmaker. He seems to have a handle on this. This was before seeing the movie, so I'll go along with whatever he wants to give us at this point. But what are you going to do with the Penguin for 6 or 8 episodes? And then now that I see it, I'm like, all right, give it to me. I'm like, can it come out like tomorrow? Like after the film? Okay, when's the first episode? Like it's probably going to be a year from now, but I need it. So,
that would have been great if they had it. They kind of like
queued up,
ready to roll, like, within at least the first 40 days or something like that.
Yeah, that would have been great. So
we need the iceberg rave to come back and grace our small screen.
And I'm such a sucker for, like, see, it's weird because I enjoy the aesthetic, but I also like comic accuracy. So seeing the Iceberg Lounge, I'm like, all right, we got the Iceberg Lounge. At least that's in there. I'm good. Like they gave me something from the comic, and the portrayal. I remember Matt Reeves was talking about. He took a lot of Penguin from the Telltale games. I don't know if any of you have played those. And I'm like, all right, I could definitely see the angle he's going for here. So I was really impressed with Colin Farrell, and I'm glad that we're going to get more of him. And I'm glad Reeves didn't kill any of the villains off.
Yeah,
that's huge.
That's great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, except for one, but you know.
Yeah. So could we talk about him, or including him in the villains?
Carmine Falcone. Yeah. Let's talk about Carmine Falcone, and then we'll talk about the cameo. So
Falcone.
Falcone. Oh, that's
yes.
right.
Yes.
Do we prefer Falcone or Falcone? What do we think about that?
This is like the Ra's al Ghul thing all over again.
To me, it's always been Falcone, and then when Batman Begins came out, I'm like, why are they calling it Falcone?
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah, I think
same with Roz. I was like, it's always been Ra's, bro. You know, whatever.
being of Italian background, I'm gonna say Falcone is probably the correct.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
way to say
Yeah, I always knew it as Falcone before that movie too. I thought that was when I remember. I'm like, oh, I guess it's the same. Like, at first I was like, no, it's the same guy.
And John Turturro, I like the fact that he's American, but he's got Italian background. So I'm like,
Dude.
I mean, not that that's a necessity, but I'm like, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Dude, he was I totally did not expect it. I mean, he's excellent in almost everything I've ever seen him in, so I don't want to say he's bad.
Yeah.
But man, he murdered this role. He was so good. Like,
he was great.
It was so pleasing to see, and just like, because we have obviously the one from Begins that we had before, and then there's a version of him also. I mean, I know most of you probably didn't watch Gotham, but I did. So there's a version.
Was he Falcone on that or Falcone?
I did.
It was Falcone on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good job.
So like you had him
Good
there.
job, Fox.
Yeah, and now you have him again here, and this is the best performance of the three for me.
Easily, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like Adam said, the fact that he's Italian definitely does lend to it. I know some people have had issues maybe with the look of how he looks.
He looks like he came off the page. If you got a problem with the look, I don't know, man.
The hair, like I said,
the scars too.
Yeah,
he's always. I mean, that's discriminatory against curly-haired folks. But yes, I liked Carmine Falcone as well. I also always called it Falcone before Batman Begins. And then Nolan was just such a rebel with pronunciations. He's like, I think it should be Falcone. And I think it should be Ra's al Ghul instead of
He should have consulted David Goyer, the comic reader that he had write the script. Maybe you should have set him straight.
And Denny O'Neil came out later and said, no, it's supposed to be Ra's al Ghul, like the animated series pronounces it. So
he's like, yeah, stupid.
Don't butcher my character.
Yeah, so
I like on Arrow. Sorry, on Arrow, they called it Ra's and Roz. They tried to explain it away.
They did both, yeah.
Oh, wow, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
I didn't mean to bring the show down.
Oh, no, it's yeah.
No, if you would have mentioned Felicity, you would have done that. But I just did.
Yeah, I liked Carmine
Matt Reeves
Falcone.
Connection.
Falcone, sorry.
Yeah.
I liked Carmine Falcone in this film. I also thought that it was well done. He was like I would imagine him being in The Long Halloween, you know? Really menacing too. Really menacing presence. And very like, you know, and being I think if you're a comics fan, you're kind of I think you kind of know Falcone's behind it all, you know? And sort of like the you know, he's the guy that's, you know, probably like pulling the strings with everything going on in Gotham and who the Riddler's part of who the Riddler's retaliating against. But I just really enjoyed the performance. I thought it was well done, and I love that they brought in the Catwoman connection, which we can talk more about later.
Yes,
but that was great because it probably means the rumored Catwoman spinoff is going to be based on When in Rome, which I'm excited.
Okay, I'll save it for when we get there. Never mind. I'll save it.
So, but Adam, Justin, what did you guys think of Falcone?
I thought he was great. I thought like it's right out of the comic book. Like I don't know how you can look at that before if you're a comic reader, right? And you look at that performance and say, I didn't like it. I'm like, when's the last time you read one of these comics? Because literally, it was exact to the point where and he got me pretty early. And it was the point where at the entrance to the church, he's talking to Bruce, and he's telling Penguin about the moment that he got shot and Thomas Wayne saved his life, like in Wayne Manor on the kitchen table, and Bruce was watching from above. Like that's right out of the comic and the animated adaptation. The movie, and I'm like, all right, like Reeves, and that's the thing. Like you can tell with like little touches like that Reeves knows his Batman. It's not just lip service. Like, look, and I'm not knocking the Nolan films. I love them, but it's like when Nolan says, "Well, my brother was more of the fan." It's like, okay. And Tim Burton, we know he never picked up a comic unless it was,
Killing Joke is the one he said he's picked up.
That's. And I'm not surprised that would be the one. But and then Joel Schumacher was more of the '50s era and stuff. But so it's like I don't know how in tune he was to the comics. I know he said he used Bane because his nephew or his son or somebody related to him wanted him to use Bane, which is a great way to pick your villains. But, okay.
What's the Joel Schumacher quote that everybody quotes? Isn't it? It's not tragic books; it's comic books.
Yeah,
and we're making a cartoon. It's like, thanks. But no,
Batman Forever is great. I think.
No, I
think
love Batman Forever. I will say I enjoy Batman Forever. I do. But with the exception of Two-Face, because that was the Joker.
And me.
but no, Falcone was pitch perfect. And again, there was the scene with him and Bruce later on when he reveals the when he goes more in depth about his connection with Thomas Wayne and what Thomas Wayne wanted him to do and all that. Like that back and forth between the two of them was some great acting. And even Pattinson, when he's not speaking, like you guys are saying, even out of the cowl, like the facial expressions, the eye movements, it's like, damn, this guy, like he's with Pattinson's Batman, you could tell he's like holding it, like he wants to go off and just like he wants to lay into the people that he feels deserve it, but he's like trying to like you can see he's restraining himself and he's very. But yeah, no, John Turturro's performance, that was top notch for the compared to some of the other characters. The little amount of screen time he had, he made the most of it. I loved it.
Yeah,
Justin,
yeah, great. Yeah, I don't have a whole bunch more to say except I wish we did get a flashback of Thomas Wayne working on him, just to make just a little bit of connection. But it's hard to do that because Batman's in every scene in this movie. That's not even except the opening scene. He's in every scene, guys.
Yeah,
I can't think of a scene where he's not in this film. And so, but yeah, he was great. I was kind of hoping I'm just a sucker for like him being the Falcon. Oh, I'm sorry, not the Falcon. The Roman.
The Roman.
Yeah. I don't know why I said the Falcon because his name was Falcone. I don't know. That'd be dumb. That would just be stupid if his name was Carmine. The Falcon, Falcone. But then it would fit when they're all like, a falcon's got wings.
Yeah.
Penguin's got wings.
The funniest thing about that the whole time when it was like the rat with wings, I'm like, you know what describes a rat with wings? A bat.
Bat.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, that was my thing. Like the Penguin straight calls Batman rats with wings. The Danny, do your things. It's like, yo, we come on, Batman. He ain't the world's greatest detective yet. He's like Gotham's greatest detective, but he's getting there.
Yeah.
Or he's just like, oh crap, I know what that means. Maybe that's something else. He's like, nah, it's not me, bro. Nah, it's not bad. It's definitely rats, right? And then, like, you get that scene later on where there's a cage full of rats, and there's a bat in there. It's literally like nailing it home. Rats with wings, bro.
Yeah.
Rats with wings.
It was all there.
All right.
Got wings.
Well, let's talk just very briefly about the cameo. The unnamed prisoner, who I think we can all safely assume is the Joker. From what we saw, played by Barry Keoghan. Is that how you say his name? Keoghan. Barry Keoghan. I was sort of 50-50 on it, to be honest with you. I thought that it was fine until the laugh.
I hated the laugh, bro.
Yeah,
I didn't like the laugh.
And Joker, to me, it's very important that the Joker, something that Mark Hamill just like really nails is the laugh, right?
Yeah.
The laugh has to be really good. So it's my hope that the Joker isn't the main villain in any of Matt Reeves' movies. I'd like to see other villains. If he shows up as sort of like a secondary character, that's fine. I actually pointed this out in on Twitter the other day that before Death of the Family, there wasn't really a comic arc that I could find. Maybe you guys can correct me. Where the Joker was the main villain. The Joker was a supporting character in a lot of Batman stories, but actually before Death of the Family, it was a Superman arc that the Joker was the main villain in a story called Emperor Joker, where he takes over the powers of Mr. Mixel, whatever Mixel. Yeah. And causes havoc for Superman. So, and then before that, I think the last time the Joker was sort of the main villain in a story was Death in the Family. Yeah. So, of course, recently we've had a lot of Joker as the main villain stories. Death of the Family, Endgame, War of Jokes and Riddles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's used a lot more now, but yeah, no, Joker doesn't have to be the main villain. He can be a sort of secondary chaos agent for Batman that he occasionally has to look out for. So my hope is that we see Mr. Freeze for the sequel. That's what I would love to see. But I would love to hear what you guys thought of Barry Keoghan's Joker.
Okay.
Yeah. Go.
All right. So I just want to say, reiterate that what I said that on the Vigilante show, I really had no idea he was playing the Joker.
Yeah, you spoiled it without knowing. Yeah.
I totally dropped that as just to be funny because I'd heard about it, and then when I saw it, I'm like, oh damn! I guess it was. Guess it was right. So, you know what? I mean, if he serves a purpose in the larger story going forward, then I think it was a good place to put him in, because obviously everyone, well, I don't want to say loves the Joker, but they do. Like he's the most famous Batman villain. He's the most important one.
He's probably the most famous, most important villain, comic book villain of all time.
Yeah. So like, I understand putting him in this movie, especially because it's a brand new take. It's Reeves' first film. You want to kind of get him in there to kind of whet the appetite for people. But I've read now that the plan is for him to be kind of like a Hannibal Lecter type of character where he's used as a resource, which, as we know, doesn't mean squat, because anytime they do that with the Joker, he escapes anyway, he gets out. So that'll probably happen anyway. But it was fine for me. Like, it didn't, I know some people were like, oh, I hated it. You know, it was whatever. And because I kind of had a feeling when they named him being in the film, I was kind of like, well, who's he playing? Who's Barry play? He's too big of a name not to have him as a role that people would know. Yeah. And then, so yeah, it made sense. And again, it fit in the film. Their interaction, their conversation he had with the Riddler was perfect. So yeah, for me, it worked, but it was kind of whatever. Like, it's just whatever for me. It didn't impact me one way or another with the movie.
Yeah. I could take it or leave it, because there wasn't enough for me to really have an opinion, to be honest. Like, I didn't really like the laugh, but that can be that sounds a little superficial. Like, oh, you didn't like the laugh? Yeah. That's just the laugh, you know. I actually felt like and I read an article today. I don't know who linked it. Maybe it was y'all. Someone linked some article where Reeves is like, I don't know if the Joker is going to be in the sequel. You know, it's. And I felt like the whole article was a like, hey, let me just manage expectations type of like conversation. Yeah. Like, it'd be kind of dumb to cast this cat as the Joker and then he doesn't return at all. But I felt like the what he said in the article, like it made the ending stronger. I disagreed. I felt like it was a really awkward placement for that thing. Like, it felt like a post-credit scene, and I know that's a Marvel lead type of thing, but that's what it felt like to me. It felt kind of tacked, but it would have been. I think it would have been a way more enjoyable as a post credit as opposed to where it landed. And I know there's more. I guess he's going to release. That's probably what's going to end up on that website. That rattle out, whatever. There's some more stuff coming. Yeah, I'm curious as to where it goes. I I think the Joker is really necessary to any Batman story you tell. So, I mean, if this is a trilogy or if it keeps going, like, you can't do definitive Batman without Joker. It's just kind of like he has to have it. It's like when Superman doesn't have Lex Luthor,
Right.
that's kind of weird. You're like, well, he needs Lex. He doesn't always have to be there, or Lex can move into a background character like a manipulator.
Mhm.
But yeah, Joker at some point needs to have a mano a mano with Batman. So
Mm.
I'm open to it. Like my hands are like this. Like now I'm like, okay, Reeves, you showed me what you can do. Now just show me what's
Do
next,
more
man.
of it. Yeah, do more of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for me, did the scene need to be there for me to enjoy the film or anything? No, I could have taken it or neither. Could have been a post credit. But Matt Reeves' explanation of putting it in there as a way to show that there's the power vacuum, and just when you think things might start to turn a corner for Gotham, they're going to get a whole lot worse. I like that explanation. I agree with Justin. I don't think you cast this guy if your intention is not to use him again.
Yeah.
Right? So I think he's going to be used again, whether it's the second or third or whatever film, I don't know, or specifically how, who knows. But, in terms of the laugh, that could be adjusted or refined or however you want to use it or phrase it. So I'm glad that he's out there, but it didn't make or break the film one way or the other. But I do want to see him throughout the course of Matt Reeves' time on Batman. I do want to see the Joker because I'm with Justin, and I think Eric's the same way. Yeah, if you're going to try and attempt to do a definitive Batman take, the Joker has to be there in some capacity.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it.
Nice. Yeah, I really enjoyed the cameo, but like we said, I think we've got to see it. Like it's going to be there in the future. I think the Arkham Asylum show is going to be really interesting. I wonder if the Joker is going to be a character there. And we might see him there first before we see him in a film.
By the way, I like that they switched that up from, a cop show, a GCPD show, to an Arkham show, just because, look, you could debate the quality you want, but Gotham, like literally, not just, but relatively, recently finished.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need another focus on the cops? Like, give me the crazy of Arkham. Like that sounds like an intriguing show.
Yeah. Do you guys think that in this series of films that Batman's already met the Joker?
Yes.
I think so.
Like they've already had their first appearance connection.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm actually not sure about that. The way the conversation happens in that scene, you learn to believe that they have. Because he seemed to be congratulating the Riddler and all he accomplished and who he was going against.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that he knew that part of it. Joker always knows. So I'm assuming that maybe they have, but I'm not sure. I think it can go either way. Do you think that would impact? Does that impact how he'd be used? Do you think going forward?
I think it gives him like a little. I think it gives like say he does show up in like part 2 or whatever. And then it's like, oh crap, this guy's back. I don't know. Like him and Gordon can maybe have a little aside of like, hey, this guy was dangerous last time. He poisoned the water supply or whatever. And,
right.
And like, oh, now he's making friends with creeps, like Nigma or Nashton or whatever the heck. And like, I don't know, man. Like, who knows where it goes? I was just like, to do something different. So it's not like there's a new villain in town and it's the Joker,
Mm-hmm.
That's what's kind of cool about Hey Batman being like 2 years into this, and there's an established world. We just kind of jumped in at this point, I don't know. I was just throwing that out there.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I actually mentioned this. I would love to see this trilogy of films or however many they make of them. I hope they make more. But however
17.
however many films they make, I kind of hope that they all take place in the middle of Batman's. What's up, Chris? I hope they take place in the middle of Batman's career, and I hope that he's kind of just plopped. We just like plop in at various points, and like maybe in the next one, 3 years have gone by, or 5 years have gone by, and there's like
maybe 8 years.
Yeah, maybe 8 years. Maybe he's living in his mansion, like
Yeah, with his
you know,
fingernails growing out or
We're gonna get
whatever.
a Star Wars crawl for the next one.
Yeah.
It's gonna come out for it.
But like I kind of liked that we haven't seen the last 2 years and there's some mystery there. So I wouldn't mind if they do it again and they kind of plop us in at another point on another case in a series of cases, you know?
Well, the fact also, I mean, I joked about the Star Wars thing, but it's the noir telling style lends to that. Like the voiceovers in the beginning usually is to bring you up to speed on where they are in the show, in the movie or the show. So he could do something like that, like it's been 3 years or it's been whatever since since the Riddler flooded Gotham, and go from there. Sorry, spoiler again, guys, but there you go. What happens?
Oh no, people should know it's spoiler talk about.
Yeah, I know.
Josh gave us spoiler warning. We're good.
Question? Did Gordon graduate to commissioner yet, or are we assuming? Or
I don't think so.
Interim.
I think that's gonna come in the next.
There was just too much going on. Like he's like, we don't have time to celebrate this.
Yeah.
Okay.
But speaking of Gordon, let's talk about the more heroic side of Gotham, and we can start with we'll in this part we'll talk about Catwoman, Gordon, and then Batman himself, and the way that they were portrayed. So let's start with ladies first. We'll do Catwoman.
International Ladies' Day or Women's Day.
It is.
That is true. It's a good point.
It is International Women's Day here as we record on March 8th. So I think that Zoe Kravitz is the most comic book accurate version of Selina Kyle we have ever had, both in aesthetic and look, and also in characterization. I thought she freaking nailed this role. If they aren't planning a Catwoman series, they should. It would be absolutely dumb for them not to do it, or a Catwoman movie. She just blew me away. I thought that she was great, and her chemistry with Robert Pattinson is palpable. It's just really, really terrific. I thought that it was I thought Robert Pattinson was great, but I think that Zoe Kravitz sort of challenges him a bit for the best performance in the film. But I would love to hear what you guys think. What do you think, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, Eric, you said this, I think, after the movie came out. We have not had a bad Catwoman. She's just another in the long line of Selina Kyle's. Okay, let's say that.
That's better.
Right?
I was gonna say.
I know everyone's like Halle Berry. I'm like, okay. From the '60s shows to like, even like from what I saw of the little girl on Gotham, she seemed pretty.
She was excellent. She's one of the better parts.
The best of that like crop of people, and so it was funny. My son who hasn't read a lot of Batman comics, he actually didn't like her. He's like, oh, I didn't feel like she was a good Catwoman. And I was like, well, she's not really Catwoman yet. And I was like, let me tell you, son, I'm gonna let you read a book one day and you're gonna go, oh, because I felt like she was year one, like off the page, and I feel like maybe Reeves was paying homage to like her look a lot in the movie, because there's a part where she's at the end where she's going after Falcone, and she's in the halter top, like that reminds me of her jumping out of the window in year one. Like, like I don't know how on the nose you could have got with that. So I thought she was great. I think her and Hathaway are kind of like neck and neck, if you want to say comic book like accurate, as far as how Catwoman is portrayed, like Cat Burglar doing those things. Because whatever my thoughts on Rises are, like Hathaway was not the problem for me in that film. She did a great job. And so I think Zoe Kravitz probably is gonna take the crown, if there's a crown up for grabs, because she's probably gonna have more longevity in the role. We'll see her again. Is my my gut. Like, why wouldn't we? Because they're building a world, and so 100%, he did that homework.
Yeah,
So
he sure did.
He read those comics, man. He knows them. So there you go.
He sure did. What did you think of Zoe, Eric?
Oh, where do I begin? I mean, I'll say this: yeah, on it's Saturday's viewing when you first see her walking into Penguin's, when Penguin and Batman are talking, walking to Penguin. That's not, I guess, his office. I don't know where that is in the lounge, but I guess it's his office. I said out loud, audibly in the theater, I was like, "My God!" Like that's what I said. You see her coming in, and I mean, she's a beautiful girl, and the sexiness of the characters there, the strength of the characters there, what's it called? The vulnerability of the characters there. Like you see when she thinks that her girlfriend, let's be honest, that's who that was. When you think that Annika, the girlfriend, when she finds out that she's missing and she can't find her, like her demeanor automatically changes. She starts to be more worried and scared for her. And so you get all of the layers of the Catwoman character in this first movie. And she just nails it. Like I've seen Zoe Kravitz in things before, but to me, this is her best performance I've ever seen her do. And maybe it's because I like the character so much, and I want it to be that way. I don't know, but yeah, man, she was fantastic. And I remember when they cast her, there was a lot of people worried about the casting, as there normally is with these with these characters.
Shocking. The internet overreact? No.
Right? Like there was a lot of reaction to her casting, and now it looks even more stupid than I think how people felt about Ledger. I think this is even more stupid because she literally, like Justin said, and like you said, Josh, like she is right off the page. She is just perfect. And
perfect. Sorry, I was gonna hit you with the puns the whole time.
I even loved. I know a lot of people weren't crazy about it. I think she definitely needs a full cowl next time. Yeah. But I even loved the ski mask look with the cutout things, and the little ears. I thought it looked great. I thought that it was a great look for a sort of proto Catwoman in her early years. I thought that
didn't hide her identity much, but yeah, I mean,
no,
it was like, oh,
it was kind of quick. That kind of revealed very quick.
It was like, oh, I don't know what your nose looks like, but I can imagine it's a cute little button nose.
Adam, what do you think of Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman?
She was phenomenal. I think Eric really nailed it. You literally in this one movie get every attribute you associate with Catwoman in her performance. Like you get, obviously, like Eric said, when she walked into the club, I was like, hold on a second. I don't care what Batman and Penguin are talking about. Yeah. I need a minute. You know, I don't care what he's trying to solve. After I composed myself and missed half of the scene, but what I like about it is, so she has the sexiness, the sex appeal, however you want to phrase it. But one of the things about Catwoman is not necessarily whether she's villainous or not, but she will do what suits her in any given moment. So when she needs to team up with Batman, she teams up with Batman. But she flat out tells him, "Look, my mission is to find what was her name?
Annika.
Annika.
Yeah, Annika. My mission is to find her. So, if you're onto something else, fine. But this is my concern. So it had that aspect of I'm going to do what serves my purpose, and that's quintessential to Catwoman. But she also had those heroic moments, and there's a couple times in the movie where she saves Batman, so to speak, quite literally, and especially in the third act. But what I love about where the vulnerability really kicks in are the scenes with John Turturro's Falcone, and that reveal, that whole thing. As a comic reader, I'm just sitting there with a smile on my face, and I'm like, I don't know if the other people in this theater get it, but I'm happier than can be. And it's just like her movements when she's climbing out of the apartment. I'm like, this is right out of year one. Like it's just, Reeves has captured that aesthetic in terms of her movements and her and things of that nature. So I thought she was spot on, and we've never had a bad Selena Kyle. The little Easter egg that I caught was, again, spoiler if you haven't seen it, when she said, when Batman's like, where you going to go? And she's like, oh, I'm going to go to Bloodhaven.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, all right. There's a little Easter egg. I like it. I don't know if that means we're going to see a certain character down the road, but I like it. And then, I got to say, if I was Batman, Gotham would be screwed, because when she looks at me like that and says, come with me, I'm like, see you later, Gordon. Take that signal and do what you want with it. I'm out of here. So Batman's a much better man than me, because I wouldn't be sticking around Gotham. I'll tell you that. But no, she was fantastic. I never had an issue with the casting, because the minute I saw her, I said, oh, they're going year one with her. Okay, I get it. And I remember the Darwin Cook Catwoman book. I'm like, okay, that's where they're going, and that's cool. I dig it. And her performance just exceeded every expectation I have. I definitely want to see more of that character. I'm glad that it doesn't seem like it's going to be a one and done.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Reeves has said he's talked to HBO Max about a series. And I said, okay, we'll just hit the green light and let's go. Like,
that seems like such a no-brainer to me.
Stop talking, pick up one in Rome, and go to town.
I think it's more of a what Zoe Kravitz has time for if she wants to do a series or a film on HBO Max. But I think we're gonna see a Catwoman film, and I wouldn't be at all shocked if it gets into if it's a film and it gets into development. If it's a film and it gets into development and originally for HBO Max, and then Warner Brothers says, you know what, we're going to release it theatrically like they did for Blue Beetle, because I think that Zoe Kravitz made a lot of fans. I also love the moment. It's a great Batman moment too, when she's about to shoot Falcone and Batman says to her, you've suffered enough.
Yeah,
and it's just such like a heroic moment for Batman. And the light sort of clicks on for Selena as well. And it's such a beautiful moment in the film, actually. It's like, it's very, very well done.
Yeah.
Batman is the most heroic he's ever been in this film.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was nice to see. Like, I wasn't going to be, angry if he broke a neck. You know what I'm saying? But it's almost half expected in these films. Batman like either intentionally kills guys or just is like, oh well, it doesn't mean I have to save you. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
But he really was, again, comic book Batman. He had his moral code. I mean, he'll beat a guy to his freaking nose fall off. I'm sure. I mean, he's like, that's the guy. Like, I broke his nose or whatever. That cop,
he almost did. He almost did when he took adrenaline, and that people thought was
no. He didn't take adrenaline. He took venom, bro. That was green on purpose. Eric says no. I think it's venom, dude. Homeboy had a port in his suit.
On.
Like Bane gets it. Like,
no, it was Mirakuru, Justin. There, we'll throw that one here too. We'll throw Mirakuru there as well, right?
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind if it was venom at all. But let's just really briefly. I know we're running out of time here, but let's very briefly just. I also want to highlight. Jeffrey Wright. Oh my goodness.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
I want to highlight Jeffrey Wright as Gordon because again. Probably even more so for me than Gary Oldman created the most comic book accurate version of Jim Gordon I think we've seen. And I know that he's a black actor being cast into a traditionally white role, but his characterization and performance of Gordon is exactly how I imagine him in the comics. Like, when I read Jim Gordon, that's the kind of personality that I'm reading. Even more so than Gary Oldman, who did a fantastic job as Gordon, and probably did Jim Gordon properly the first time, right? Because let's be honest, as much as we love Batman '89, Pat Hingle was not a great Gordon.
He didn't give him much to do.
He didn't get a lot to do.
He wasn't Batman's friend or partner in that film. I'll say that.
Right.
Like.
Yeah.
What did you? Well, Justin, tell us what you think of Jeffrey Wright. What did you think of him as Gordon?
Yeah, I liked him. I liked him a lot. It's funny because he's played Batman too, like voiced
Yeah.
him.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I was like, you had a lot of that in this film. A lot of like actors that have dipped into DC, like freaking Zoe Kravitz already played Catwoman in the Lego Batman movie. So like,
Mhm.
you know, she's familiar. So
She had more lines this time around, though.
yeah, she did have more lines. I liked it a lot. It's probably my favorite. I mean, and I don't. It's not a comparison thing. It's just like I really liked the relationship that they had. It was like this was Batman's like his bro. Like, hey, they're like working together. They had like they knew how to connect with each other. Like I loved when they're looking in the car, the mayor's car, and the thumb drive thing, and Batman's
Yeah.
just like, try
That was
this.
great.
And like Gordon's just like, oh crap, you know. And Batman puts him in some situations because all of a sudden now Gordon's sending out the salacious photos to everybody. He's like, oh man. It's just like Gordon's just getting the mud from Batman's boot. But yeah, I thought their chemistry has to be just as good as Catwoman and Batman, and it was. All of it was incredible. I felt like, oh, they've been hanging out for 2 years and they know each other, you know. And I actually kind of chuckled in those scenes where they are really together because it was like it's almost like we're in on this together. And he's like, all right, you got to get out of here. That whole like scene, he's like, hit me, you know, and it just made me feel like these are bros, man. And so when the scene comes where Batman thinks the Riddler's going to expose him, like, oh, suck. So, you know, he's kind of realizing he's almost shrinking, like, what the heck is going on? He makes sure he tells Gordon, you're a good cop. Because I feel like he's all, dude, this is the only real friend I have in my life.
Yeah.
And once this goes down, I'm not going to have my friend anymore. And so that, I don't know if I was looking too much into it, but I love that scene because it really painted the picture of his friend, man. This is my friend and he's my partner in this war on crime that I had, you know, started. And Gordon's like, I trust you. Like, that's huge. You trust the dude in the mask. And he even says, like, I don't even know who you are. But, you know, anyways, I thought Jeffrey Wright was great. And, you know, he encapsulated everything that Gordon needs to be, especially at this stage of the career in the relationship. So, yeah.
Yeah. Eric, what did you think of Jim Gordon?
Oh yeah, I mean, like Justin said, another fantastic performance in a movie full of them. He was like Oldman is the guy that I think everyone gets compared, like we're gonna compare everyone to because he was just so fantastic in the Dark Knight trilogy. And this Gordon is a different Gordon. Like there's definitely differences between both characters. The character, but played by the two different actors. I think we don't get, like in Begins, we get how that relationship began. Like we don't get that here. So you're just thrown into this mix with these two characters, and they make you believe it right away. Like it's very believable from the first moment.
Yeah.
And his entire, like even his cadence and his voice and the way he delivers the lines, it's just very much of a, like I have a lot of cops in my family and it's very cop sounding and very much, you know, you have that. Just he really took the role and made it his own. And for, like I said, for following such a great performance that we have from Gary Oldman, he was fantastic. And I just really want to see more of this relationship between the two, because it's the central part to me of Batman's fight on crime is that relationship. So, you know, I can't wait to see more of him and him and Pattinson's interaction, because it was off the charts. It was great.
Yeah. Adam, what did you think?
I thought it was great. What really kind of sold it for me was immediately when you see, you know, Gordon's entering the crime scene and right lock and step behind him is Batman. And like the cop goes to stop him and is like, where do you think you're going? And Gordon's like, let him through. And then when he's leafing through the evidence, and the cop's getting all pissed off, he's destroying evidence. Like, well, he's got gloves on, like the allowances that Gordon will make for him, right? But even the scene that Eric was talking about, you know, in the interrogation room when he tells him to punch him, and then later on the roof, he's like, "You could have laid off on that punch," and he goes, "I did." You know, he's like, And so, but even what, yeah, there you go, yeah. And even what Justin was saying, the scene where he says to Gordon, he's like, "You're a good cop." I firmly believe that in that moment, Batman thought, "This is the end of my time as Batman, and this is my way of saying goodbye to Jim." Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely got those vibes as well. But Jeffrey Wright is a consummate professional. He's anything I've seen him in, he's been great. So the minute he was cast, that was one actor, one choice that I never questioned whatsoever.
I feel like
makes sense.
I just want to I think I remember before they were casting for him, a lot of people wanted him for the role. So this was one of the ones I remember, like, kind of the fans got right, or the fans picked, because I remember people saying, "Oh, Jeffrey Wright would be perfect as Gordon," and then I heard like a month later Jeffrey Wright was cast as Gordon. So
their banter felt a lot like Batman the Animated Series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
With the humorous touches, the little in jokes.
That's a good
The
point.
scene that made me chuckle was when they're going into the orphan, or the remnants of the orphanage, and Batman's like, "No guns," and he's like, "Yeah, man, that's your thing, not mine."
Yeah. All right. Well,
I like when he's when they're investigating the Riddler's place, and the guy's like, "Man, he's got gloves."
Yeah.
I love that stuff, man.
So we're running out of time.
Okay.
But before we go, we started the podcast talking about how great it was that Batman was in the majority of the film, and we haven't talked at all about Robert Pattinson and his performance as Batman.
Yes.
So let's talk really, really quick about Robert Pattinson. I loved it. I absolutely loved the way that he portrayed Batman. That first scene that we see him in as the Dark Knight, really cool bat signal, by the way. I loved how it's like just like ripped pieces of metal from the spotlight, and it's like
homemade.
It's really, really cool looking. But I loved how he just kind of steps out of the shadows, and it's kind of like, it's very like, it reminded me a little bit of The Mandalorian, to be honest with you. Just the way that The Mandalorian enters scene, it's very, very similar. It's kind of Western inspired, which I really liked. And just Pattinson's intensity, the intensity in his eyes. Somehow he has more intensity in his eyes, I feel like, than even Michael Keaton does to an extent. Like, just very, very intense. And quickly, like I said this on Twitter, I was like, it's going to be very difficult for someone to beat Michael Keaton for me as Batman. But Robert Pattinson is up there. I think he's my second favorite portrayal. And I absolutely loved how in the at the end of the film, we sort of get that heroic sort of montage where Batman's sort of describing like how he's adjusting his mission. And I thought that was beautifully done. That dialogue was just beautiful. To me, it cemented the fact that Matt Reeves absolutely gets this character 100%. Like it was just such a wonderful thing to see. So, what did you guys think? Let's start with Eric this time.
I kind of can echo everything you said, Josh. I remember the fury over his casting. This is the Twilight actor. He's, Sparkle Batman and all these other things that came out. People said about him, who obviously haven't seen his other work, because he's come a long way since the Twilight movies. He's done a lot of small roles. The Lighthouse was an Oscar-nominated movie that he was in, and he's fantastic in that. So, but again, this is his biggest role yet. So there's always trepidation when you cast the guy. He's not the biggest guy physically, so I think that was an issue for people too. But man, he was just great, man. Like the eyes, like you mentioned the eyes, and I think that's the one thing everyone I've spoken to about his performance has talked about. Like, they're so full and expressive that you get everything he's feeling, even when he's not talking. And obviously you can't see his face, so they're so important in this role. And yes, Keaton was great with the eyes too, and he still is my favorite. I think it's part of nostalgia because that's my first Batman, but he's number 2 for me too now. A very, very solid number 2. It's cool. He's a fan of the character. That comes through in his performance. You could tell he doesn't want to screw this up. Like he wants to be very, 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 very good at it. Even when he had to be physical, the physicality was there. Because it's a year 2 Batman, I think Justin has an issue with the whole, parachute suit thing, the glider suit thing, and then but he like gets scared when he gets top because you could tell, oh crap, I've never done this before, but he does
What
it
a
anyway.
punk! No.
Just like things like that, and it just I don't know, like it was perfect for the time period they chose too, because he still has a very young look to him, and then in the Bruce Wayne scenes where you just again like I said before, the Riddler, you could see how broken he was. He looks broken, like you could tell that's all. It's all over his face, his hair, doesn't care about himself, so disheveled. It just pulls it off so well. It was just a fantastic performance for this movie, this world. Excellent casting. I loved it.
Justin, what do you think?
Yeah, Pattinson was great. I don't have issues with his Batman. I didn't like the Bruce Wayne stuff so much, but that wasn't because he was a bad actor. It was just I didn't prefer that take, but I'm sure that will be corrected for the next one because now he has to be a fully formed Bruce Wayne, yada yada yada. So it's not so much a complaint about his portrayal or the way he did it. It was just like I didn't like that he was so like I don't know, purposely like emo-y hair in his face and stuff like yeah.
When he has his eye makeup on without his mask on, he looks so emo. And
yeah.
There's just something like when he takes his cowl off and he's like got the makeup around his eyes and he's like just staring in the camera. Yeah. There's just something very like off-putting about it.
Yeah. Well, man, he's waiting for that Hot Topic sale, bro. Like he's all My Chemical Romance is coming back and I want to get a shirt. So yeah, he was good, man. I don't know, man. I feel like long term he's gonna end up being one of those phases. It's so hard to say, like there's so many Batman actors now. It's kind of stupid. Like, how do you rank them all?
You're right.
Especially like out the gate, you need a couple movies under your belt to really show like what you've done with the character. But I would say that he was really great. And as far as the eyes, I think one of the things that helps with his eyes is his cowl isn't so sunken in like all the other ones. Like his is pretty close to his eye sockets.
Yeah, it's closest to like the 66 one.
Yeah, it's 66.
Yeah.
If it didn't,
Yeah.
If they wanted you to take it super seriously.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good call. Yeah.
Yeah, you get to see a lot of his face that way. So it's really great. Adam, what did you think of
I thought he was great. I thought, the Bruce Wayne aspect, I was okay with it because he wasn't really Bruce Wayne. He was so laser focused on Batman that he had to play somebody that was obsessed, broken, and so consumed with his mission. And I think he did it perfectly. Again, we've talked about his eye. Like if they had an Oscar for eye acting, I think he should win it. Him and Michael Keaton can win a duel, performance, whatever. But I thought the voice that he chose, I really liked. Never once did I laugh at it, and I hope he maintains it in the follow-ups, and it doesn't become, the Christian Bale parody, because Christian Bale was perfect in Begins, and then went off the rails in the next two. So yeah, I hope he keeps it just like this because it was perfect.
Yeah. Where is it? Where's the trigger?
I love the fact that like when he walked into a setting, like just him walking in out of the shadows scared the crap out of you. Like he didn't have to say anything, and I think that's where I give him some similarity with Keaton is that the suit did the intimidation for Keaton, and it kind of did that here for Pattinson's Batman in a similar way. And also, Batman wasn't very verbose. I mean, he talked with Gordon and the Riddler on that one occasion, but really he wasn't spouting out dialogue like it was a Shakespeare off stage conversation. So he was very reserved when he spoke when he needed to. One of the things that really sold me was the fact that we didn't get anything with with this Batman's parents, and we didn't need it. And here's why I don't think we need it, because Pattinson's connection with that kid, like he connects with that kid 3 times, and every time he locks eyes with him, he's brought back to that place of when he was that 10-year-old boy and traumatized. And that connection was like, okay, the way he interacts with this child makes me open to a Robin in this world. Like I could believe that somewhere down the line he would take one in. I don't know if or when, but the way he interacted with that kid just by locking eyes with him was so powerful that I'm like, I could buy it. I don't know if he will, but I could buy it. And I just thought what I liked about this film that we didn't talk about was in that beginning sequence where, you know, we have like 2 or 3 different crimes going on, and he's talking about he can't be everywhere, but they don't know where I am, and that's what scares them. And you see the way the signal is used, where as soon as they see the signal, like these guys are crapping their pants, and they're running away. And that was touched on in The Dark Knight a little, like with that one scene, but really this is the most I've ever seen. Like they're just scared of the idea of him. Like one guy wouldn't go get a rolling can of spray paint because it's like, if I go in that alley, he's going to beat the crap out of me.
Yeah.
And even the guy he saves was like, please don't hurt me.
Please don't hurt me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So I thought that was done very well. And I thought.
Shout out to alternate Earth Tim Drake.
Yeah, exactly. But so that's why, like, I'm of 2 minds where I like comic accuracy and aesthetic, but I was also okay with this suit because it reminded me of Lee Bermejo's kind of look for Batman, which I did.
Fair.
And also with the world that Reeves created and the way he uses his motion and the iconography, this kind of suit makes sense.
I wasn't crazy about the suit, if I'm going to be completely honest. I wasn't too crazy about it. I would have preferred to see something a little bit closer to the comics. I thought the cowl looks really cool on film, but it sort of blended into the world once the film got going.
Yeah.
But for me, I would have preferred to see something a little bit more comic book accurate.
Fair enough.
We'll probably get that going forward.
Yeah, it's going to change because they could sell more Hot Toys and stuff.
Yeah.
But
I'm tired. Sorry. Just on that note, I'm like I know it's not portrayed this way, but on the film, like it's actually a gray suit with like a black cape and cowl, but all the like tie-in products are doing all black for Batman, and I'm tired of all black Batman suits. Like it's great for Keaton. Like when Keaton returns, he needs to wear an all black suit, but for goodness sake, give Batman gray and black. Like let's even gray and dark blue would even be cool.
The 2 scenes we didn't talk about that I quickly want to touch on is there was when he realized the Riddler was going after Bruce, like himself, and right away he called Wayne Tower to tell Alfred, be on the lookout or get out of there because something's gonna happen. The change in his voice when he was in the car, it's like the vocal change was amazing to me. It's because like there's that Bruce Wayne, there's the 10-year-old boy that grew up into a grown man.
Yeah,
you hear it in his voice, and the scene with Alfred in the hospital bed. I'm like those 2 scenes sold me.
More than, absolutely.
Than in the suit Batman stuff, which was great.
Absolutely.
So great performance by him.
Totally. There's so much more we could talk about with the Batman, but obviously we love this character a lot. We love this world so much, so we just went into the characters, which I think is the main driver of the film. Obviously, there's more that goes into making a film than that. There's the cinematography, the score, all of that was excellent.
Absolutely.
But we are out of time, so I am going to leave it to you all to do your plugs. And so let's start with Eric.
All right, guys, you can check me out on Twitter at Finally33, spell Finale33, or my show handle that I co-host with Pete Vera at Straight Outta Gotham at straight_O_G on Twitter. Same on Instagram for both of those as well. Check us also check out the show on Facebook and the Facebook group. If you want to be a part of it, go look up Straight Outta Gotham in the Facebook group area, and we will invite you in and come in and talk to us and have a good time. It's a fun place to go. We talk about a lot of the stuff we talked about tonight. So yeah, come on, check me out.
I think I need to join that Facebook group, Eric. I don't think I'm in there.
All right.
Let's go to Adam really quick. Adam, where can people find you?
All right, on Twitter, it's at Adam_LeafsFan. I've got my vidcast/podcast at Multiverse Musings, the vidcast. That's on YouTube, so you can find me there. But it's all you'll find it on my Twitter. So just go there, check out my show. I have Josh join me regularly, and 2 other co-hosts that are great. So check us out. We talk a lot of Batman, a lot of Superman, Green Lantern, whatever you're into. It's probably talked about on there. So check me out there.
And last but not least, Mr. Kowalski. What about you?
Hey, yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Justin M. Kowalski. If you're watching this video, it's right there.
Nice.
In case you spell it wrong. You can find me. You can also follow like our show that we do, Let's Go Podcast, at Let's Go Podcast on Twitter. Or go to our website, www.letsgopodcast.com. So
it's a great show. Great show.
Thank
You
you.
definitely need to check it out. And thank you all for coming tonight. It was such a great show, and glad to talk Batman with friends. So until next time, have a good one.